Hey, what's going on? Welcome to YouTube here on the Heaven on Earth forecast. I'm the Leo Mystic, your astrologer. This is where I bring you the sacred mission for this week, the 13th until the 20th of April we are. And this is going to be just another awesome, very intense, weird fucking week. And did you watch my forecast previous week where I talked about social media revolution, technological revolution, conspiracy theories becoming louder and louder, people wanting to look for answers? Did that happen? Fuck yeah, that happened. And it was kind of how I expected it to happen. I did not know who it was going to be, but it was the interview with David Icke and Brian Rose, the London Real, and it was intense. And we have seen that that Venus, the moment Venus came in its shadow period in freaking Gemini, is when that whole conversation started heating up. And that Venus retrograde is at I think it's at 6 degrees, is the point where it's going to come back, right? And it's going to happen like around end of May, where Venus is retrograding. I don't know where. I forgot the dates right now, but Venus is going to come retrograde anyway to the 6th degree, right? And so that's where that whole conversation about the freedom of speech started happening. And so it's very clear that Venus and Gemini is going to be that theme where we're going to reflect upon during May and during June when Venus is retrograde. So talking about that freedom of speech, right? We got Sun in Aries, the last week of fire, the last week of the focus on Mars in Aquarius, because Aries, right, is ruled by Mars. And then on Sunday, Sun is going to come in Taurus, and our focus shifts to that Venus in Gemini, the search for love and more feminine. But now, today as we speak, we have Sun in Aries squaring over to Pluto, and that is intense, to say the least. This is us. It's requiring us to step up, take action, to not delay, to go, to really do what we have to do in order to transform. We have to die. Ourselves, our ego has to die. We have to act. And this is so intense, so freaking intense, it could feel that we are dying. Because the Pluto aspect is not easy. It's the Lord of the underworld, so hey. But that Sun-Pluto thing is one thing. But then this has been going on since February, what I'm about to say right now. So if you look at the astrological wheel, right, and I'm not going to go too technical here, but you see a clear division, right? The wheel is 360 degrees, obviously, because of the sky around us, 360 degrees underneath us, Earth is round. So, and you see a division, like the Eastern Hemisphere and the Western Hemisphere. The Eastern Hemisphere is full. The Western Hemisphere is empty and has been empty since end of February and will be, I looked it up, until the end of May, the 29th of May. That's when Mercury is all of a sudden going to come into Cancer, like very softly. Like, what is happening there? Eastern Hemisphere is all about the me and our belief into a free will, and is about our personal identity and our social expression. So it's more about like me. Whilst the Western Hemisphere is more about being receptive and about others. So there is no others at this very moment. There is no receptiveness. There's no action there. Where is their action at the moment? And this is very interesting. The lower part of the Eastern Hemisphere, right, which is really about me, we got Sun there, We got Mercury there. We got Venus there in Gemini. So all these planetary aspects, they're trying to look for a personal identity. They're working with me, me, me. And then we got all the other planets, except for Mars, that is focusing on the social expression. So what is happening? There is a social expression, but we're trying to, it comes from me, and we're trying to find our own identity, but there is no personal expression. No, there's a social expression. So this means two things. This means we are expressing what has already been the case for like thousands of years, and we're expressing what we're trying to find out about ourselves. There's no expression there. We're really in ourselves. Now, that expression part, right? There is no personal creativity. This means there's a group and there's separation. There's separation in the group where there is no recognition of the personal aspect. No, we're having a group identity, but that group identity is based on the norms and the standards of how it should be. We got still Saturn. No, Saturn is in Aquarius, but we got a lot of Capricornian energy still. So we're seeing this, you know, also shift. It's all happening between Pluto, the South Node in Capricorn, which is the first beginning of the division, and then the North Node in Cancer. So what does that mean? It means that we have to all start letting go of that Capricornian hardness and, you know, that business and the patriarchy, and we have to start evolving towards the matriarchy, towards, you know, evolution of nurturing, of water, of, you know, coming home. That's clearly the shift that needs to happen. And because of that, there is a social expression. There's a lot of blah, 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 but it's coming from a me. So the government says, no, me, 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 me. And we also are like looking for, like, what about me? What is happening with me? You know, and how is this affecting me? But there is no creative expression. There's no people coming with, like, you know, ideas to resolve the situation. And there is no social identity, which is the upper part of the Western Hemisphere. And so there is no social identity because we're unable to recognize the individual creative expression that connects that social identity. So there is no social expression that is coming from like the individual. And that's what new leadership is about, by the way. New leadership is about the group identity that reflects the true values of each single individual human being. And that's clearly not being recognized. Now, here's a cool thing. Venus in Gemini, the search for love and the freedom of speech, we call that now because clearly that is a theme, is Mars in Aquarius connecting in a harmonious aspect. And this is coming with new ideas to get out of this problematic situation where our suppression of the freedom of speech and the technological age. And so this is an invitation for you to come together to organize think tanks with your friends, come up with new ideas and really start taking charge, because Aries is about take charge. There's a clear invitation to take freaking charge and to take action, to initiate these conversations, the boiling or stirring up of new creative ideas that we then, when Mercury then starts coming, out of that whole sea of me and thinking about others and creatively expressing around June, so that we can start sharing and start, transforming it into something creative and really put it to use. But we cannot, this is an invitation to really start to wake the fuck up, which happened, by the way, with Mars in Aries, which is why the whole dialogue is going, and people are starting like revolutionize, like, what is this about? Like, there our laws of privacy are being harmed, and it's not honest. And you're starting to see that, you're starting to feel that people around are like, fuck, like, even the neighbors right now, also Venus and Gemini, by the way, that's also the aspect. It's not only, the whole freedom of speech thing, but it's also the law of privacy, because now the neighbors can be the fucking police. Since, technological companies like Google and Apple starting to develop, apps that are going to report other people. What the fuck? This is a police state. This is really a police state. And I would like to invite you to start really asking yourself just some questions. Why is it that we have to be in the home? Is it truly because people are telling me, like, science is telling me this, and now they're coming out with, and vaccines, do they really have to be the solution? And it's just you coming to sense and really deciding for yourself. And I made a video about this. And this is not about what is, right and wrong for the whole population, but this is really you just asking yourself the question, do I really have to believe this? Do I really have to go with what the external environment tells me to do? Or is this an invitation to actually start looking within myself? Is this what I want? Is this a world I want? Or is this a world that's being created by other people where they tell me what I have to do? Is that what the purpose of life is? You're just being slave? And I'm not saying to revolutionize and start burning fucking poles and 5G shit. Yeah, it's never gonna work. But this is an invitation that where you are a co-creator in the world, where you start reflecting and thinking, shit, what kind of world do I want this world to look like? What kind of world do I want to see like? What kind of world would be beneficial? And you realizing that you are a co-creator, and that the only task you have here on earth is to forgive. The only task for you to do is to forgive, because we are constantly creating illusion after illusion after illusion. There's always a judgment behind good and bad. When we say this is good, this is bad, there's a judgment behind everything we see and what we say and think about what the government does about AI and about 5G and all these conspiracy theories that are actually not helping. They're not helping. They're just spreading to like the confusion. They're contributing to the confusion. And I think it's necessary to a certain point, but this is where Venus and Gemini really searches for love and searches for answers as to how can we create this in a very simple way. Because let me tell you how my guides told me to really look at this from a very simplistic way. It is like this whole fucking thing about the hemispheres, the whole left side, the eastern hemisphere being full and the right hemisphere like being empty, and the whole thing that I explained to you. It's so fucking simple. Like, and I've been reading these charts for months now, for years, and only right now was I looking at it, say, oh, you know what? I'll put it at 0 Aries, and this is very technological. This is no like if you're not an astrologer, but it's coming back to the very simple astrology, looking at the division between the heavens and the skies without, trying to figure out where's Venus at the 7th degree and it is trining Mars at the 8th degree in Aquarius, and it's like, it's so intensely searching and, you know, looking for kind of the details. And this is what we do in the West here, where it's like, you know, dissecting and just getting to the core and researching. But if you just have that zoom out perspective and go back to basics, make it simple, simplify things, that's when you come up with a basic, you know, solution. It is not difficult. And I believe very much in, you know, love being created and the creation itself never really being bad. It's all happening for a higher purpose. And this is what is called faith. This is what is called, I believe, in a higher power that has good intentions for us. And what is good intentions then again, right? It's just creating. Ad such, Jugat such, Hebi such, Nanaka Hosi be such, you know, true throughout the ages, true from the primal beginning, true even now, true forever. And so then, that's forgiving. That's true forgiveness. That's true compassion. Where you understand, holy shit, you know, I'm living here my life, and for maybe, you know, 100 years and for an age, and then I'm just gonna, you know, dissipate. This whole ego body is just gonna get off and transform into something different, and then we'll go through it again. And in that sense, you know, this is the battle or the dance between good and evil, and between black and white, between day and night, between dark and light. You know, and it's like, it's being created, and whatever happens, just constantly forgiving and seeing the bigger picture as in like, holy shit, for millions of years, this whole cycle thing has been going on. And it's just constantly, you know, and we're fine, aren't we? We're fine. And when we decide to, and when we realize that love is a high vibration, compassion, forgiveness, gratitude, and that if we get into that anger and fear cycle, the whole conspiracy thing and the whole, you know, government trying to, you know, put us against one another, because that's clearly what is happening. You know, this, you gotta be, like, if you're not seeing that, then, you know, that's why I'm questioning you. Open your freaking eyes and start asking yourself some questions. There's clearly, you know, a division going on, but we cannot lose ourselves in that. But we do have to ask ourselves questions so that we don't blindly start becoming a slave of that whole system. But, you know, there was this whole video on Gaia with a Conscious Life Expo by William Henry. I suggest you go check that out on Gaia. And he was talking about I forgot his name, but a very important Christian that said, if you walk in truth, and if you speak your truth, and if you live from love, then all these archon beings, they can't see you, because there's, you know, the whole thing is that where people and extraterrestrials would have not such a good intention with us and want to enslave us, and whatever, this again, you know, could be called a conspiracy theory, but very interesting always to look into. But this is a positive note, where if you just, you know, go to your true essence, to your true core, you know, come from a forgiving aspect, and you realize the whole ages thing, you know, where it's just cycle after cycle after cycle after cycle, and, you know, we're having a beautiful life in a beautiful home, and we can decide what we want to do for now, but you always will. You always will. In the spiritual realm, you always will have the choice. And that's the cool thing. And that's the beautiful thing. There is no good, bad. It's just constantly creating, creating, creating. And let's just simplify things, because they're pushing us to make it more difficult, to dissect, to see things as separate. But they are not separate. Everything is interconnected. And it will always be like that. And that's why I say this week is simplify. Take a bird's eye view, Go back to basics. And then take fucking action. Because it is required. Please, go and talk with your peers. They're having us divided, but we are more connected than ever. Because we don't have to be physically there. We can be connected via spirit. Because they don't believe in a soul. They don't believe in a spirit. They want our spirit. They want our soul. But we will never give it. That's it. Simplify. See you next week. Have a beautiful week. Much love, the Leo Mystic. Peace.